Well, hello, everybody. I'm Rosemarie Smith, and welcome to the Weir Comfees webinar. I'm the owner of Weir Comfees, and you can read that as Jack of all trades for the past 12 and a half years. Joy Bates is my co-host today, and she and I have just been chatting. Once I set the mood for today's webinar, I'll tell you a lot more about Joy and me. And next, there's the testimonials. I've just a few of them, and it's really come to my mind that people do really take what we say about self-esteem and how they feel about themselves when they have an ostomy, and these testimonials tell that for sure. Okay. Self-image. How you feel mentally reflects on how you physically present yourself, and how you see yourself reflects on how you mentally present yourself. So that is one of the reasons that I care so much about self-image and self-esteem. And that is why Weir Comfees makes the clothes they make. And people with an ostomy just want to feel normal again. These are some photos from a fashion show that I did a few years back now, but I've done others, one for the American Ostomy Association in Reno, Nevada, another one in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and this one happened to be in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Okay, and the whole idea is see how happy they are. They're all dressed up in satin pajamas, and everybody just had such a great time. And that's why I do what I do. And there's the finale. Now, these are a happy group of people, and every one of them has an ostomy. Okay, we got you covered. I chose this title because it's so true in so many ways. We're trying to do education. I do not plan on selling on these webinars, and I do hope to have a series of them, and we are recording them. We will have tips and tricks, and my co-host Joy has lots up her sleeve. The Q&A presentation part of this webinar is approximately 40 minutes. Then it will be turned over to you to ask questions. You at that time can unmute yourself if you wish to speak, or just type in a question. Our agenda is we're going to talk about the privacy policy, because I know that's really important, and our goals for the webinars, my bio, Joy's bio, and then Joy has commentary, a discussion of the questions that some people have already submitted, and you may be very interested in some of the answers, and then the Q&A. In confidentiality, we will never, ever sell or give rent or give any of your information away. In fact, we don't even keep any of the credit cards online. They're just gone. You will notice that Coloplast has a banner on our website if you've been there. They only take your email address. There's nothing else they know about you. If you look for a sample, that's all they get is your email to send to you some information about a product, so they can send you a sample. You are and always will be a Weir Comfees customer. So our goal is to provide education for you, to help you solve problems, to offer solutions, to discuss ostomy issues. We will post on our WC blog, Weir Comfees blog, and this webinar and future webinars, and they'll all be downloadable. And we do invite the support groups to show these webinars at their monthly meetings. Okay, my bio. Okay, I've owned Weir Comfees since June 2002. I spent 30 plus years in human resources management. No, I do not have an ostomy. I love colors, fabrics, creating new and useful accessories. I'm very creative at problem solving, sewing, and I love all animals. I live with my husband and 4 loving, bossy cats, 3 children, and 6 grandchildren. Weir Comfees is my legacy. Now, there's 2 of my black cats. They're 12 years old. I call this the cat lounge. And it's very hard to see black cats in because you can just barely see their eyes. I'm sorry it's a little bit blurry, but that's the best I could do, sorry. And they are in charge. And there's the other 2. These are 4-year-olds. Daisy, she's my only female, and Sammy is a young, really good male. Okay, this is Joy's bio. She's an RN, and she has been for 40 plus years. She's also an enterostomal therapy nurse and a wound and an ostomy care nurse. She's been in private practice for ostomies and wound care. She does manage an ostomy clinic, and she's president of the Oshawa District Ostomy Association and has been for 14 years. She's an international speaker and teacher. She was a teacher in Panama in Central America. She's a published author, college educator, and working with people with an ostomy is her passion. So we're a good match. So there you go. Joy, you can take over. I introduced Joy Bates to the group. Joy?
Thank you very much, Rosemarie. Can you hear me? Or
Loud
not?
and clear. Loud and clear.
Okay. So, Rosemarie, thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. It's really an exciting thing for me to do. So I just wanted to say to keep in mind that each person who has an ostomy is individual, each body is individual, and each ostomy itself is very individual. It's important for you as a person to actually know what type of ostomy you have. So my question to each and every one of you is, do you know what kind of ostomy you have? And some people who come into my clinic, they just go, well, it's on my left side or it's on my right side. It's really important that you know. So for the most common, on the right side will be an ileostomy or a urostomy, and on the left side is a colostomy. But you may have had multiple surgeries and they may have had to move your ostomy. So instead of your colostomy being on the left side, it could actually be on the right side. So once again, you need to know what kind of ostomy you actually have. So when getting any information that you're finding off the internet, or if you're actually talking to someone who has an ostomy and they're giving you all kinds of tips and tricks and things like that, make sure that you ask them what kind of ostomy they have, because they're not all created equal. And for someone who has a colostomy and they're giving you a lot of information, it will be inaccurate for somebody who has an ileostomy or a urostomy. So once again, you need to ask and you need to know. So, as I said, every ostomy and everybody is very individual. Rosemarie?
Okay. This discussion on appliances has always been of interest to me, and I know other people wonder, why am I in a one piece or why am I in a two piece? So I'll hand it back to you and you can let us all know.
Okay. So a one piece versus a two piece, it really is all about the body contour and the preference. So it's your preference as to what you might like. So if you have a patient who has a very flat belly, or maybe they've got one that's a very jelly belly, and meaning that sometimes if we're a little bit older or maybe we've lost some weight and we have some excess, we'll call it flab, that's sometimes that can give you a challenge in putting on an appliance. Or if you're very rotund, if you have a protruding hernia, if you're a child or an adult, those things can make a difference as to whether or not you're using a one or a two piece. If you're having issues with leakage, and if you have skin issues such as skin breakdown, or maybe you've had multiple surgeries or even one surgery, but you have quite a scar and quite a, we'll call it a trough, or an area where there's quite a low area, where oftentimes when you have an appliance on, you'll actually have some leakage, because if you have liquid, it always takes the area of least resistance. So it will always go to the lower area and cause you to have issues with leakage. So it depends on the body contour, and each abdomen needs to be assessed to find the right appliance for that person. Cost sometimes can be a factor, whether you have insurance or you do not, whether you only have assistive device funding, so you're $600 a year, and over time, we're always hoping that that $600 will have an increase. And I know that over the years, there's been different agencies have been working to increase that funding. However, we haven't been able to budge the government at this time so that it's beyond $600. Also, it depends on whether or not you have a colostomy versus an ileostomy, or you have a urostomy. So these are some of the one-piece appliances that are out there that are available, and some of them are very flat. Some of them have a convexity, or what we call a bump on the back, and there are slides further on in the presentation that I will address convexity. So with a one-piece, it's a very low profile, so that the appliance is very close to your skin. They tend to be more flexible. You can get them in flat or convex. You can have them enclosed or drainable. The closed is generally if you have someone who has a colostomy and they want to discard their appliance once or twice during the day. But some people want to have a drainable. Whether or not they're it's pediatric or adult. If they're a one-piece, you can have up to a 3.5-inch opening. And some people who have a hernia and they have that rounded area under the stoma, under the stoma, then they might want to have a one-piece appliance that is very flexible, and it actually molds around that rounded area under the stoma, and which is the actual hernia. You may get them with or without belt tabs. They can come in standard or extended wear. And the extended wear is if you have more of a liquid output, then you may want to have an extended wear. Standard is generally more for colostomies, and they come pre-sized and cut to fit. So these are two-piece appliances, and they will come closed as well as drainable. Now, this photo is only showing them with appliances that would have a clip, but we also have them that have what they either call a lock and roll or more of a Velcro closure. So those are the newer appliances that are on the market. Next one. So a two-piece appliance has a higher profile because you're putting both a pouch and you're putting a flange together, so there is an increase in height. They're a little bit more rigid, but some of them actually can be quite flexible. Depends on the brand that you're using. Again, they come in flat and convex. They can come in closed and drainable, pediatric to adult, and These ones will have an up to 4-inch opening. They will come with belt tabs for the most part, standard and again extended wear time, and pre-sized and cut to fit. So they're similar, but yet there are some differences for sure. So here you can see in the photo, this would be a 2-piece appliance, and there's a mini pouch that, again, if someone is irrigating and they have a colostomy, then they might wear just a small pouch, or maybe for intimate times, or if they're going swimming. And this is your ostomy pouch. So you can see that the opening on the bottom is different, and as well, this one actually has a convex appliance, or a convex on the back of the actual pouch itself. And this would be your pediatric pouches, and these are actually a 2-piece system, but they do have it in the 1-piece as well. And you can see there's actually like a Velcro closure that's on it. Next one. So this one is, the question is, what is convexity? And it's the outward curving of some barriers that come in contact with the skin around the stoma. So it may correct irregularities such as creases or scars, or when the stoma does not protrude from the abdomen. So it's always nice to have a stoma that sits up an inch, inch and a quarter, but they're not always made that way, or they may be made that way, but for different reasons they actually can settle and they can become flat, or sometimes they'll actually be retracted, so they actually go in and under the skin. Again, it just depends on, sometimes it's surgeon and how it's been made, sometimes it's the abdomen, and if there's a lot of fat that or fascia that the surgeon has to go through, sometimes they'll pull out a lovely stoma, they'll make a great stoma, but then as everything settles, that stoma actually shrinks and it goes back down inside. So it may have looked great at the beginning, but sometimes it does, it gets smaller, and sometimes it's a surgeon's preference, and they will actually make them very flat. Excuse me. Oops. Back up there. There we go. The flanges and the 1-piece pouches, they do come in the flat and convex, and sometimes you may use rings or strip paste that can be used to actually build up areas to make convexity.
Whoops.
So these are, I think this is interesting because we're working in 2 different households, so it's like, does the right hand know what it's doing? So bear with us. We'll get the next one down pat. But at any rate, this here is a photo, and it's actually showing your flat versus your convex. And you can see that the one on the right actually has quite a raised area on the back. It also has what we call like a hydrocolloid on the back of the actual flange, so that sometimes we'll use that one if somebody has really sensitive skin and they have problems with actual the taped border on an appliance. So you'll see that this one actually it looks all the same color on the back. We don't use it very often, but it's certainly available for those who have sensitive skin. Next one.
Okay, thanks, Joy. That was really informative. I have another question that was sent to us. Dealing with pouch emptying when away from home, what do I do? Carry a system for a rinse bottle, a change of pouches, sealing tape for a wafer, or what else do I need?
So I think that when you're away from home, or even when you're at home, a rinse bottle is okay, but it's truly not necessary. It actually is something that in my practice I don't teach that, but I do know that a lot of ETs or enteral stoma therapists will actually teach it. The reason that I don't is that I think that the less time that you spend emptying your pouch, cleaning out the bottom of your pouch, and the less time that you spend in the washroom, the more time you'll have to do other things. So if you use the rinse bottle and you're putting the water up inside, swishing it around, and then dumping it into the toilet, especially if you have an ileostomy, it'll function within a few moments after you've actually cleansed it. So you spend all that time getting a perfectly clean pouch, and then it's active. So I often think with an ileostomy you could save that time. But when you're away from home, or even when you're at home, I do suggest that you sit back, way back on the toilet, spread your legs, put a little bit of toilet paper into the bowl on the water, and then empty your pouch. And when you put that toilet paper on the water, what happens is that it helps to prevent the splashing from coming back on you. Just make sure that after you've emptied it, that you clean either your clip or the bottom of your pouch where it drains, and then close it up and go about your business. Really, the less time that you spend in the washroom, it's easier for you. Don't let it be your life. Also, when you're away from home, there are disposable liners that you can get for a colostomy and an ileostomy. And these liners are biodegradable and disposable, so that you just put them into your two-piece appliance, and then when you go to the washroom, you just snap off your pouch, pull out the bag, dispose of it, put in a new one, and I usually recommend that you already have another pouch with one of these disposable liners in it, ready to go. So you take off your dirty pouch, put on your new one, and then remove the liner from inside your pouch and flush it. And it just makes it for an easy cleanup. Also, if you have either a makeup bag or a pouch that you can get from the ostomy companies, then use that and carry a change of appliance with you. You should have a pre-cut flange when you're going out, and so if you know the size of your stoma, just pre-cut it. Have your tapes cut if you're actually using tape, and some people do use tape to border around their flange. Have your liners, as well as having disposable wipes. And there are wipes on the market that are alcohol-free, perfume-free, and they're totally biodegradable. So if you take one of them, put them into just a bottle of water and shake it up, it's immediately dissolved. It's gone. It's really a great product. And then have a little garbage bag so that whatever you need to put in it, you can just take it out of the washroom and discard it. And if you're traveling someplace, I do suggest that if you're traveling with someone, that put some of your products in their suitcase, and always have a carry-on bag that you take on the airplane if you're going on the airplane, so that some of your products will definitely go with you. But if you do put some of your products in somebody else's suitcase, the nice thing about that is, sometimes your suitcase takes a different holiday than you do. That way, at least you've got some. Okay, so I do suggest that.
Great. This is an interesting question. I guess if you don't have an ostomy, you might wonder why this mattered about using a laser to remove hair around the stoma.
So it's a good question, and there's certainly more people that are actually using laser to remove that hair. And especially if you're a gentleman, sometimes women have, an excess of hair around the stoma, and one, it makes it difficult when you go to remove it. Two, it's harder sometimes for you to get a really good seal around your appliance. And if you're using a regular razor and you're shaving very frequently, sometimes you can get something, it's called folliculitis, which is actually an inflammation of the hair follicles. So if you're using laser for the hair removal, it can be done. It can be done safely. You want to make sure, though, that you're not having the laser go on the stoma. So just kind of protect it so that none of the laser is hitting it. It can take up to 6 months for the hair to be permanently removed. And not all of the salons will actually use laser around the stoma. So if you're going to do it, you need to call around and find out whether or not anybody will do that laser removal. I know in my practice I have a laser machine, and so I do it, but not all ETs or, as I said, salons will do it. And there are home laser products that you can get. One of them is called the No-No, and I'm sure that you've seen advertisements on TV. So it is a product that is available, and yes, you can use it.
Okay, next question is a good one, and I'm sure you have an answer, or at least suggestions. Dealing medically with a peristomal hernia blockage, short of surgery with a colostomy.
So this is a really good question. Now, the question was sent in, and it didn't say colostomy, but I am addressing a colostomy. And so this information is definitely not for someone who has an ileostomy. So it's really important when you have a colostomy to get the proper amount of fiber and fluids for the colostomy to keep the stool from getting constipated. Now, some people actually like to have it constipated. However, we do recommend that you keep it running rather smoothly, and so that it's not it's a softer stool. When I have somebody who's having a lot of issues with blockages or leakage or whatever, what I ask them to do is to keep a calendar. And on that calendar, have an intake pattern of the stool output and any medication that you may have taken to make it looser, to make more movements, or if you're taking bran or prune juice or anything that's a cathartic to help move the stool along. So if you keep track of that, then generally after a month, if you go to see your ET, they can have a look at it and they can actually go, okay, so here's the issue. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to increase, or this is what you need to change. So it's something that we have to go on. There's non-medical fiber that you can use, which be the ground flaxseed or bran buds. And you really shouldn't wear anything that's too tight over the stoma. Now, you can use like a really little light girdle. Sometimes people will use that, and that's fine. But you just don't want anything that's really, really tight and constricting.
Okay, great. Another question on the bathroom. Ideas on setting up bathroom at home to make it easier for those with ostomies, i.e. specialized toilet fixtures. I think they want to know if you have any recommendations. Okay, Joy?
Yes, for sure. So if you go back to question 2, and we talked a little bit about when you're going to the washroom and how to empty your pouch. One of the things that I recommend is that you actually have a box that's made up, and it has all of your supplies there, so it's easy access for you. So especially when you're going to change, have everything set out in the order in which you need it to make that change, so that you make it as simple as possible. I do recommend that you have a magnifying mirror that you would put on a vanity. You can buy one at the dollar store, and they kind of sit on a little stand, and you can get like small ones and large ones, but they're really, really great to have. And that way you can actually see, one, when you take off your appliance, that you've actually cleaned around the stoma, that you've got all of the stool off from underneath it. And then also when you're going to actually apply your flange or your pouch, so that you can actually see and make sure that you're missing the stoma and you're centering it, the appliance on. If you don't have a vanity, and some people don't, you can use the back of the toilet so that on the top of the tank, and you could set some of your supplies there, and also your little mirror so that you can actually see what it is that you're doing. When you remove your appliance, I do recommend that you take your appliance, put it into a garbage bag. You can use like a Metro bag or a garbage bag, but put it into the bottom, tie a knot, open up the top of it, And then if you have anything else that you need to throw away in the garbage, you still have a place to put it. When you're finished, tie another knot in the top of it, and the odor is contained. All of your garbage is in one, and cleanup is quite easy that way. And it's really not necessary to change your bathroom. It really isn't. I think, as I said, just keep it really simple. And if you look at it, it's a bum in a new place. And so cleanup is quite easy for that.
Okay, this is my favorite question. Okay, this gentleman, he wants to wear his pouch out over and under the, he wants to wear his pouch out over his clothing. So he wants to have his shirt tails out, and he wants to know if there's an extra long t-shirt with tails available to help him with the problem of hiding his pouch when it's hanging on the outside of his trousers. There you go.
Well, aesthetically, it's a great idea to have the pouch hanging over the trousers. And I know certainly some people do, and some people just, I guess they don't really care or think about it. But I know I've had a few people that have, come to see me, and it's kind of like, okay, so we really should change this, like we don't have to really announce to the world that we have an ostomy. It's good to educate people, but not quite like that, I don't think. Anyways, if you are wearing the pouch outside of your pants and it's just hanging down, you have a high risk of actually either knocking off the clip or opening up the bottom. And of course, that's going to be a disaster. If you've got some stool running down your leg, that's not a great thing. An extra long t-shirt, not really a great idea either. We do recommend that you tuck them into your pants. If you're wearing a belt, the belt will either go below or above your actual stoma, so it's not riding on the stoma. And you can have pants made with a higher rise. You don't have to look like Urkel. They don't have to be up underneath your armpits, but you can have them with a higher rise. And it wouldn't take much, and just a proper fitting. And I know Rosemarie certainly has made many pants that are custom fit for someone, so that you can accommodate your pouch, accommodate the stoma, and you do keep it inside, and it is out of sight.
I couldn't agree more. Anyway, question number 7. What do you suggest for extra seal precaution on pouch? I think they mean protection. They've said okay.
Well, I think probably what they're referring to is that just giving a better adhesive or a better seal, so that there is really a security factor that that flange is going to stay on. The flanges were made to stick to your abdomen and to stay in place. So sometimes people will get really concerned because the outer edges start to roll. Well, if you actually think about it, where you have your seal is right around the stoma to the outside edge. So if it's going to leak, it leaks from the center out. It doesn't leak from the outside in. So that little bit of rolling really isn't an issue. It's not going to just come off. But some people will use a soft cloth tape, like a Me-Fix or a Hypafix, something along that line, or they may use a transparent tape, which is just a clear tape around the outside edge. Now, it's not necessary, but it is an option, and some people just feel a little more secure when they have that. The other thing is that although the pouches are waterproof, so that you can have a shower, you can have a bath, you can go in the tub, you can scuba dive, all of those kind of things, and it won't affect it. But some people like to have that clear, transparent around the outside just for that added extra security. The only thing about it is that in the summertime, sometimes you'll develop a rash in underneath it. And that's because it holds the heat in from your body, and sometimes you'll have a reaction to it. The other thing are elastic tapes. Now, there's 2 or 3 companies out there that actually have this product, and it's a stretchable product that goes around the outside edges of your appliance. Coloplast has this product, and you can get free samples of this, and it is available as a sample on the Weir Comfees website. So if your skin is sensitive, you can use a barrier under the adhesive to protect the skin from stripping or removal. And something like that would be like a Cavalon No Sting barrier, which is alcohol-free. And each company will have a barrier. Some of them have alcohol, some of them do not have alcohol. If you have ones that have alcohol, make sure that you're not putting on an excoriated skin. So anything that's red or the skin is broken down, again, because the alcohol is will actually sting when you put it on. And do make sure that the barrier that you use is totally dry before you put your appliance on. Because sometimes what can happen is that you can actually have a chemical reaction between the barrier and your flange. So or if you're putting it underneath a clear transparent tape, you really need to make sure the barrier is totally dry and then apply, whether it's tape or paper tape or your flange over top. Just make sure it's totally dry.
Okay, I think you touched on this a little earlier about the waterproof pouches. So here's one we haven't covered.
Right. So all pouches are waterproof, as I said earlier, and years ago they weren't. So they are now. And so if there is a filter in your pouch, if you're having a shower or a bath, the company that you purchased your pouch from would actually give you little seals that you would put over top of your filter. So that's fine when you're having a shower or a bath. But if you're going to go swimming, I don't recommend that you use a pouch that has a filter. Use one that doesn't have a filter, and whether it's closed or drainable, but no filter, because the filters were not made to withstand a lot of water for a long time. Next one. Oops.
Odor. Do you want to handle this one?
Yeah, for sure. So odor. Why do you have odor? Well, sometimes it's because you actually have a leakage. Now, your appliance may not have come off, but some people will say, I can just smell the stool all the time. Well, oftentimes that means that you haven't got a good seal around the stoma, and there may actually be a little bit of stool that's leaking underneath the flange. And of course, so your seal has actually started to break, but it hasn't gone all the way out to the edge so that you have a complete leakage. So that could be one reason. If you have that poor fit around the stoma, so again, if you have creases or scars or what we call dips and valleys, there may be that the total flange is actually not touching in all of those creases that you have. So you need to make sure that the crease is actually filled in, whether it's filled in with a little bit of with your paste, or it may be with an Econ or a barrier, but something that's actually going to fill that in to give you a better seal. That could be a reason why you have odor. Some foods will cause an odor, and there's a list to follow. Sometimes your clip is not clean after emptying, or you may have some stool right at the very bottom of your pouch. That can cause an odor. And if you empty your appliance and you don't immediately flush, then that lovely odor just kind of permeates all over. So you want to make sure if you're emptying, empty and flush. And then if you're changing into your appliance, you want to make sure that you immediately close up that garbage so that the odor, again, isn't traveling.
Oops. Okay, I could read this one because this isn't very technical. Many factors such as foods, normal bacterial action in your intestines, illnesses, and different medicines, plus vitamins can cause odor. Many foods will, very strong foods like cabbage and Brussels sprouts, which cheese, eggs, cucumbers, onions, garlic, dairy products, fish, coffee, and asparagus and broccoli are at the top of the list. So if you have odor, I think you need to eat these sparingly. Would that be correct?
Well, you can eat any of those foods because your pouch is odor proof. So it's not like it was a long time ago, and that really was an issue. But now, because the pouch or the plastic that the pouches are made from, they are odor proof. So you can have those foods. It's just that there's going to be more of an odor when you actually go to empty your appliance. And three foods that, a couple that were actually mentioned there, but there's three in particular that I'm thinking of. For someone who has a urostomy, which would be asparagus, spices, and seafood, you can have all of those things, but if you have a urostomy, just know that when you go to empty your urostomy pouch, there will be a very strong odor. And oftentimes, a strong odor can mean that you actually have a urinary tract infection. However, before you think that, oh my goodness, I must have that, think back about what you've had to eat. Did you have some fish? Did you have some asparagus? If you did, that's what you can contribute the odor to. And so in actual fact, you don't have a urinary tract infection. It's just the food that you've eaten. So it's fine to have those foods. Just know where the odor is coming from. So as I said, the pouches are odor proof. And when you're emptying your pouch, you can spray an air deodorant lightly, and I do stress lightly first, and then empty your pouch, flush, and again spray just very lightly. And that will help to remove the odor. And I know that a lot of people, when they actually travel to somebody's home or they're going to visit friends or whatever, sometimes they're very afraid to go to a friend's home because they know that they're going to have to empty the pouch, and the odor, they're concerned about that. But if you really stop and think about it, everybody goes to the bathroom. There's an odor, doesn't matter who you are. And so if you do this, where you take one of these little deodorants, such as the Glade Ultra, which comes in a purse-size spray, you could carry that with you. Just spray it initially, empty your pouch, spray it again, and there'll be virtually no odor in that bathroom. There's also something called Citrus Magic. And now Citrus Magic it's a good product, but you do want to make sure that you just spray it lightly. Otherwise, it's like having an orange grove, and that's not a good thing unless you're in Florida. M9 is another deodorant for the pouch that you can use. And if funding is a problem, you don't have much in the way of money to spend on your ostomy supplies, we have over the years used Scope, the mouthwash. And what you do is take just a tiny piece of toilet paper, put a few drops of that Scope on, and then put it into your pouch. So if it was a new pouch that you were putting on, then you would just do your initial little piece of toilet paper with the Scope, put that in your pouch, and then each time that you empty it, you put another one in. So it's a cheap fix, but it does work for those who want to try it.
Thank you very much, Joy. That was great. All right, so I'm just going to speak for a few minutes because our time is running on, and then we check and see if anyone has any questions. I'd just like to say, tell your ostomy nurse, your doctor about the webinars and that they are available for download. I if you belong to a chapter or a support group, ask them if they would like to download and show it to the other people attending. Tell your friends with Ostomates to come and join us at the webinar. This is the first in a series of webinars, and we will get better if you communicate to us what you would like to know. You can sign up for the Weir Comfees newsletter if you haven't done so at our website. I have a short survey I'm hoping shows up when I'm finished, because this is still in our new learning stage. All new customers will receive a 10% off their complete first order, and if they use the code WEB10. So that only applies to the people who attended, and thank you. If you want to contact me with any topics or comments, just send an email to admin@weircomfees.com. If we don't get to your question for Joy, email us at admin@weircomfees.com, and I will pass it along to Joy. But be sure to indicate a brief indication of your issue, when you're available, and a phone number where Joy can reach you. She's way too busy to play telephone tag. Thank you very much, and now I will close that presentation and turn to the Q&A mode.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Okay. If you want to say something, just do *6 and say it, or you can type into the chat, whichever you wish to do.
Ma'am?
Yes?
Okay, I just got my coloscopy bag in July of this year.
Uh-huh.
Of 2014. Okay, I've got several problems that I'd like to have answered. Okay, one is, you have to excuse me, I got a cold. How do you address having, when you go someplace and your bag lets out a loud gas noise and everybody in the place turns around and looks at you?
I think that's one for you, Joy.
Well, thanks. Well, sometimes, what you have to do is you actually have to look at your diet and what you're actually eating, because, of course,
well, see, I don't know what I'm supposed to eat and what I'm not supposed to eat. No one's ever told me nothing.
Okay. So you did say that you have a colostomy, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And
it's permanent.
It is on, and it's on your left side?
Yes.
Okay. So with a colostomy, you really don't have any restrictions with your diet.
Okay.
You can generally eat a normal diet with a colostomy. Not a ileostomy, but a colostomy you can. So, but foods that would have caused you to have gas before, such as like beer, beans, broccoli, those lovely things, you can still have them. However, they are going to cause you to have gas. So you have to be a little bit careful as to when you have them.
Okay.
We used to we had a little bit of a saying that we used to have, and that if you were going to have beer, beans, and broccoli, you didn't want to go off to church, because that would be just the time that everybody says, let's pray, and then it would spout off with, it would just put out some gas, right? So,
right.
As I said, you need to look at the foods that you're eating and make sure that foods, like as I recommended there, that are gas-forming foods, that you try and avoid those or limit them. The other thing that sometimes people will have a lot of gas is that they actually skip their meals. And they think that, well, if I don't eat, then I won't have gas, and it won't be a problem. In actual fact,
that's what I've been trying to do. That's what I've been trying to do.
It actually works the opposite. You actually need to eat, and you need to always have something in your gut because the gas actually starts to form when you have nothing in your gut. So even if you have a cracker, you have your regular meals, but you still need to have something. So every 2 to 3 hours, just pick up a cracker and have a cracker, but something that's going to actually get in that gut and keep the air from forming. And the other thing is, excuse me, I have a frog, but anyway, sorry about that. The other thing is, you want to make sure that if you have carbonated beverages like a Coke or a Pepsi or something, that you're not using a straw because you're pulling in a lot of excess gas. And then, of course, you have to eliminate it, right? So it's better to put it into a glass and drink it that way rather than using the straw. So I hope that helps. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can go online and just, check out a diet that you might find in some of the books, like from the major manufacturers. They have little booklets. Maybe you got one when you come out of hospital. But it will tell you in there about different foods that cause gas. Again, not that you have to eliminate them, just you have to know when to have them.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Okay.
Okay.
I got one more question. Okay, what would make your stool black and thick, and then at times it'd be black and runny?
Well, the black is are you on iron?
No, I'm a diabetic.
No. Okay, but you're not taking any iron pills?
No. I'm a type 2 diabetic. I just take pills.
Okay, yes, but you're not taking iron pills?
No.
Okay. I would probably recommend that you go back to see either your family doctor or your surgeon if you're having black stools.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you. I have a comment from Dave. Okay. Thanks very much. Dave said it took him 18 months after leaving the hospital before he learned there was more than one appliance supplier. Therefore, visit the web and do some research. That's Dave's 2 cents worth.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
You're very welcome. And Dave, I have to say, you're not alone in that. Oftentimes when you come out of the hospital, you only know what you've been shown. And sometimes, they don't give you a list of other companies or other types of products or, so sometimes, yes, you do have to do research or go to an ostomy meeting and you'll find there will be lots of people who have ostomies. And sometimes I know at my meetings, I will have vendors evenings, and I'll have vendors from all of the different companies as well as stores, and they'll come out and they'll show all their different products. So you get to know what's out there and what's available. Or you can seek an ET nurse because we certainly know that, we know a lot about a lot of things, so how's that? But and I see your comment there that you didn't know that there were meetings. There's not a lot, but there are certainly meetings out there. I know I do the Durham region, so and we have people that come from quite a long ways away, but they make the effort and they come out to the meetings. So, but anyways, an ET, you're certainly able to contact an ET if you have questions, and we'll help you out as much as we can.
Dave, if you go online to the Ostomy Canada, you will see all the chapters there. There's like 35 of them across Canada. Okay, so go on Facebook too then. Okay, well, we have exactly done 59 minutes, and thank you. Yes, do go to Ostomy Canada. So I thank you all very much for being here, and we will definitely put this recording up on the website, and hopefully some people will download it. We will get a bigger audience and have even more attendees next time. Okay, thanks for coming, and thank you very much, Joy. That was very educational, even for me, and I don't even have an ostomate. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye.